Are you new to tarot? Are you a beginner? Then you're in the right place. Start here. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and be sure to hit the bell notification so that you get a notice every week when I post a new video. Hi, I'm Gwen. What's the first thing you need? You need a deck. It's okay to buy your own. You don't have to be given your first tarot deck. I bought my first one many years ago. The biggest rule to remember with tarot is that there are no rules. If you talk to 100 tarot readers, you'll get 100 different ways of doing things. Everybody has their own way of doing it, and all the advice that you'll see here online, it's just advice. And just like in life, you need to pick what works for you and leave the rest of it. If it doesn't resonate, don't worry about it. It's okay. So my first recommendation for finding a deck is that you need to pick one that works for you. YouTube has a lot of videos on decks for beginners. I'll be recording one myself in a future recording. I suggest that you do a search and look for tarot decks, recommended decks for beginners, and watch the videos. Take notes on the decks that look interesting to you. Some things to keep in mind when you're watching these videos: decks that have lots of picture detail on them, those are a little easier to read when you're a beginner because there's lots of information on the card for you. Some decks also have descriptions on the cards themselves. So if that's something that you like, maybe look for decks that have that. Do you love the art on the decks? So you need to make sure that the art is something that you love, that really calls to you, that you enjoy. Some decks are a little darker. Some decks are fun and silly. Some decks are serious. What is your personality looking for? You'll also find in some metaphysical shops that they have a selection of decks that are open that you can flip through. I don't have any like that are close to me, but I do know people that have been able to find their decks that way. If you do have a metaphysical shop close to you, go check it out or look online and see if there's anything close to you, and go see what decks they have available. I have metaphysical shops close to me, but none of them have open decks that you can flip through. They're all brand new. So that doesn't give me a whole lot of information to choose. So you do also have the option of buying your deck online. Most of the videos with deck recommendations on them aren't going to show you the whole deck. So you'll want to write down the decks that look interesting to you, and then next you'll do another search online and you'll look for deck reviews. When you're taking notes, you want to make sure that you know the name of the deck and perhaps the name of the author or the illustrator who created the deck. And then you can use that information to look for deck reviews. A lot of the review videos will show you all the cards in the deck. And there's some terminology that they might use in the deck review videos that I hear sometimes that maybe beginners might not understand. So there's two types of decks that they talk about a lot when they're talking about tarot, and those are mass market and indie decks. And mass market are typically the ones that you'll be able to find on Amazon. You'll be able to find them in a lot of bookstores, and those are easily found. And then the indie decks means that they were printed independently and they're not typically widely available. There may be a limited number of decks available. The indie decks are typically a little bit more expensive, but there are some really fantastic indie decks out there. So that's something that you can keep in mind when they're talking on these review videos about an indie deck or about a mass market deck. Another thing that I hear them talk about is that something is out of print, and that just means that's an older deck and you can't find it easily in bookstores again, and you're going to have similar challenges to finding an indie deck that you would. There's limited availability for an out of print or an indie deck, and it's harder to find, which means it's going to be more expensive to find as well. And if your price range allows that, then great, go for those indie decks or those out-of-print decks that you're looking for. And if it doesn't, you can just look for the mass market decks that are widely available. When you're looking for the review video, one of the terminologies that we use is called a flip through, and that just means they're flipping through all the cards. And if that's all you're interested in is just the cards themselves and seeing the pictures, then you can look for videos that are like that. You can also listen in the reviews. They'll talk, sometimes there's a deck and book set. So it comes with a book, and you can do a little bit more reading on the cards or refer to the book that comes with it if you're buying a set that includes the book also. And then I would suggest once you've done the review, watched the review videos, narrow your choices down to 2 or 3 decks, and then if you're buying it online, you can go and look for the pricing for those 2 to 3 decks and choose something that's in your price range. Some decks are more expensive than others. You can find decks as inexpensive as $15, and then if you're buying an indie or mass market, an indie or out of print deck, you might be paying over $100 for one deck. I will put in this recommendation as well. There is something that you'll see, RWS, which stands for Rider Waite Smith, and that's just the most widely used version of tarot cards that are out there. And a lot of the decks that are out there are either Rider Waite Smith based, or they call them Rider Waite Smith clones. They're the original art that's been redrawn, or it's a newer, more updated version of that Rider Waite Smith. And for beginners who are looking for the traditional meanings of the cards and want to spend time memorizing those, that would be a better choice to look for one that's Rider Waite Smith, just because there's a lot more information available out there about that, and your price range, you're going to be able to spend less money because that's more widely available. For those of you that are reading intuitively, and that's just going off of what the cards are telling you and your feelings and what you think the cards mean, then you have a lot more flexibility and you can choose whatever decks you like. So you need to do, again, there's no rules here. These are just my recommendations, but you need to do what feels right for you and also what interests you. Don't pick a deck because you feel like you should pick that deck, and I'm picking this because this is what they said and I don't really like it, but I'm going to buy it anyways. You're not going to be happy with that deck, and you're probably not going to really use it. So you want to make sure that the deck that you choose is one that you're really excited about, and then when that deck comes, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun process for you to get to know that deck and learn how to use it. I will have in a future video, I'll make a recording about the traditional meanings versus reading intuitively and how all that works. And you can look for that to come in a future video. So I hope this was helpful to you. Feel free to comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you. Do you have a burning question about tarot? Comment below and I'll use your comments to make a future recording.